Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden. Now, you might be a seasoned gardener but you're looking for some nice simple ways to fill up space, or you might be a complete beginner. If you've never grown anything before, one of the best things you can do is to get that first harvest under your belt, because when you have that first harvest under the belt, suddenly you think, okay, maybe I do have some green fingers. And so this video shows you 15 crops that you can harvest within 8 weeks, and a few of them you can harvest in under 4. In front of me here, I have some peas, which originally I sowed as pea shoots, which you can do on your windowsill even, and they'll be ready in 2 to 3 weeks. So this is what a pea shoot basically is. It's usually that bit, and you usually eat it before the actual flowers arrive. That's really tasty. But what I've also done is I've allowed this to continue growing, and it means that now I'm starting to get the first peas of the season. I do think that peas, they are the gateway drug to gardening because they're very simple, they're very tasty, and when you start to eat your own homegrown peas, you suddenly just realise how cool growing food is. The next thing I recommend is growing microgreens. Now this here is, I'm growing beetroot to transplant outside, but you can do it in the exact same way, just using an open tray, sowing a bunch of seeds. It could be different brassicas, it could be mustards, it could be cress, or it could be beetroot or chard, so many different things that you just sow over the top, cover with about 1 centimetre of compost, and in a couple of weeks you'll have all of these little microgreens that you can harvest and start to enjoy on your salads. Another thing that you can enjoy in about 3 weeks after sowing is your broad bean or fava bean tops. So if you have any spare seeds left over, or if you want to actually save money, you can buy a bunch of field beans as a green manure, which is really, really cheap. You again can sow these in trays or pots, and in 2, maybe 3 weeks, you get these delicious tops that you can just lightly cook, and such a joy to have. Next up, if you direct sow this crop, it'll be ready to harvest in about 4 weeks, and that is radish. I've got a bunch of radish here that I need to go ahead, harvest and clear out, but there are so many different colours and different types. You can also eat the tops of radish as well. For these older ones, I would recommend just cooking them very, very quickly, just like a bit of a stir fry, but radish is definitely on the list. Next up, which you can start harvesting in around 4 to 5 weeks, is this crop here, which here in the UK we call rocket, mainly because it grows a bit like a rocket really fast. In the US this is called arugula, and it is just such a nice tasty green. This is starting to run to seed, but I don't mind it because you can eat the flowers of rocket. That's really, really nice to put on your salads. Now, when you do sow rocket in midsummer, it does have a tendency to run to seed quite quickly, but it won't stop you from getting lots of little leaves to enjoy firsthand. Next is nasturtium. This takes around 5 to 6 weeks before you want to start harvesting the smaller leaves. This plant here is around 5-6 weeks old, and it's really nice and healthy because this is a self-sown seed. So if you do grow nasturtium, you'll be getting nasturtiums for the rest of your life. If you let them flower and seed, the seeds can be used as poor man's capers. The flowers are also edible. You can eat the whole plant, and it's just a nice pretty thing to add into your meals. From around 6 weeks from sowing, you can start to harvest your baby basil leaves. If you sow a few clumps, it just means that you can get a few of those initial leaves. After around 8 weeks, the cropping is going to be quite nice and healthy, but basil, it just smells amazing. If you're in the UK, grow something called British basil for if you can only grow outdoors. This here is aroma 2, and there's just so many types like lettuce leaf, but basil, so tasty. By the way, if you're growing strawberries and you have some basil, what tastes amazing is strawberries and basil together. Summer. Try it, trust me. So here I've got a few different examples of things that you can start harvesting from around 6 weeks after sowing. The one that isn't here is turnips as well as spinach. Both of those definitely add into the list. But lettuce is one prime example. Lettuce is, for me, I just use it as like kind of my staple filler for a salad, and then I add all sorts of different flowers and flavours and things like herbs to it. So dill, which is growing here, this smells absolutely incredible. And then behind me here is coriander, where obviously you've got the leaves of the coriander, which you can enjoy for now. But when coriander flowers, you can use the flowers of the coriander. And for those of you that watch my channel, you know I'm going to say green coriander seeds, which I am, green coriander seeds. So next up on the list, a couple of purple vegetables, kohlrabi and also pak choi or bok choy. I'm going to be direct sowing some purple pak choi here, which is very exciting. But these grow really, really quickly. For kohlrabi, which creates like a bit of a swollen stem, you can start eating it after around 7 weeks. There's like nice small little stems. You can eat the leaves of both of these. For pak choi, you can either use it a bit like a cut and come again vegetable, but there is just so much scope with these two, and they grow really fast. So if you have any kind of spaces or gaps in your garden, these are one of the things that you can quickly just direct sow, allow them to grow in place and get you a little bit more food. Next up, we're back here at the hotbed, and here I've got spring onions. This is older than 8 weeks, but from about 8 weeks you can start harvesting your spring onions, especially enjoying some of the smaller leaves. And what I've got here is, this is spaghetti squash. That's going to be, after I've harvested all of the spring onions and the carrots, this is what I'm going to allow to take over the whole hotbed. Now, squash and courgettes, zucchinis, you do have to wait more than 8 weeks if you want to harvest, but this is just a little additional extra. The actual flowers can start appearing from around 8 weeks when it comes to squash, but any of the squash that you grow, you can also eat the leaves as well. So that fits the category of harvest that you can eat within 8 weeks. Now for the final crop, you might be surprised to hear me say new potatoes, but there is a variety called Swift that they say you can start harvesting from 7 weeks, I think from 8 weeks onwards, but it's just on the border, it's just on the cusp. So I'm adding it in, but I'm also adding it in because one of the best times to plant new potatoes here in the UK, or like a temperate climate, is mid to late summer. This video here explains why, because I know it often raises a few eyebrows, but watch the video and hopefully you'll be a convert as well.